Long before the rise of Darth Sidious and Vader in the age of the Old Republic, a human was born in the outer rim of the galaxy, a male child with Force sensitivity, discovered at an early age and accepted into the Jedi Order. This young man would grow into a powerful Jedi Knight, trained by a number of wise masters within the Order, providing a bounty of information to feed his insatiable hunger for knowledge. Taught by so many varied and experienced mentors, like Master Kreia, Master Zar Lestin, Master Dorak, and Aaron Kai, he learned about Force bonds and many other uncommon subjects. As a Padawan, he befriended another powerful Force user named Alec, rising to the rank of Jedi Knight together, though all considered Alec the lesser of the two. The young Jedi also gained popularity through his natural charisma and charm, skills which became of great use to him throughout his future endeavors. In the year 3964, before the Battle of Yavin, the Mandalorian NEO-CRUSADERS attacked the Outer Rim world of Vanquo, the first major invasion of a Republic-protected world, though they had been conquering non-Republic worlds for over a decade. This would begin a series of invasions, bringing the Mandalorian Wars directly into Republic territories. And while the government responded by sending the Galactic Fleet to counter Mandalorian advances, the Jedi did not involve themselves, with the Council believing they should not engage in the war. As a young Jedi Knight, the former apprentice of Master Kreia stood in opposition to the Council, believing it was their moral duty to help those now suffering at the hands of the Mandalorians. The passion with which he spoke on the issue started to make him a media celebrity, earning him the nickname Crusader, described as a lone Jedi defying the stubborn Council and working to save the suffering masses. His friend Alec was the first to join in his efforts, but soon they were joined by other Jedi, persuaded by the Crusader's arguments. No longer willing to plead for the Council's authority, the Crusader and his followers went on a scouting mission to assess the situation. Alec and the others were then left on the planet SURIK, while the Crusader investigated Onderon and its moon Duxon. Yet during their separation, Mandalorians captured those on SURIK, bringing them to the planet Flashpoint, where the scientist Demagol experimented on Jedi. The Crusader, discovering their capture, returned to the Council to inform them of all he had learned, and was given authority to rescue his followers. But it proved unnecessary, as a former Jedi Padawan named ZAYNE CARRICK was able to free them, while rescuing a friend who had also been captured and brought to the facility. When the Crusader was reunited with his followers, they returned to the core, and found that they were more popular than ever. The Revankist movement, as it was known, had grown to see the Crusader as their courageous and intractable leader. Embracing the role, he took on the name of Revankist, and continued to fight for the Council to authorize their participation in the war. Helping his arguments was the story of the planet Cathar, once a thriving alien world, which the Revankists argued had been attacked by the Mandalorians a decade earlier, explaining why everyone on the planet had suddenly vanished. In addition, there was the Battle of Sirocco, where Mandalore the Ultimate, leader of the NEO-CRUSADERS, unleashed nuclear weapons against his enemies, wiping out the world's cities and population. Yet the Council still refused to enter the war, even issuing arrest warrants for the Revankists and his followers. Alec, now going by the name MALAK to avoid arrest, risked capture by returning to Coruscant and the Jedi Council, testifying on the behalf of his friend ZAYNE CARRICK, who had rescued him from Flashpoint and who was falsely accused of crimes against the Jedi. When his testimony was concluded, he was not arrested, but instead allowed to leave with a final message of warning to the Revankist, demanding that he cease his unsanctioned activities and return to the core. MALAK then traveled to Cathar, where his people continued to investigate the disappearance of their population, only to discover that he had been followed by a party of Jedi who descended onto Cathar and chastised the rebels, demanding their disbandment. Yet as they argued, the Revankists found a Mandalorian mask hidden under the sand, and as he picked it up, all of the Jedi present had a shared vision of the past, seeing the Cathar population herded towards the sea by attacking Mandalorians under Cassis Fett. When a lone female Mandalorian attempted to plead for their lives, Cassis told her they had to die for dishonoring the Mandalorians decades earlier during the Great Sith War. And so the army opened fire, killing all the Cathar who lined the beach, as well as the female Mandalorian who stood with them in the end. When the vision finished, the Revankist realized this was the courageous woman's mask, and so put it on, taking the name of Revan and vowing to wear the mask until all Mandalorians were brought to justice for their crimes. Having witnessed the atrocity themselves, the Jedi who had come on the Council's behalf were no longer able to adequately defend their position of non-intervention, and while the Council still refused to enter the war completely, completely, they were persuaded by Revan into a compromise which deputized a small mercy corps as part of the Republic military, allowing for individual Jedi to join the war effort without need for the Council to authorize the entire Jedi Order's involvement. This mercy corps fell under the command of Revan himself, who led them to a number of early victories, proving an excellent strategist and military mind. After their participation in the Battle of Duro in 3962 BBY, Revan and Malak were praised for their efforts, with Revan promoted to Supreme Commander and given control of 1/3 of Republic forces. Yet as the war dragged on, both Revan and Malak became more detached from the horrors and atrocities being committed, and started making cold, calculating decisions, often matching the brutal tactics of the Mandalorians, with a policy of achieving victory at all costs. During the course of the war, Revan and Malak discovered an ancient Rakata ruin on Dantooine, passing a series of tests by droid guardians to be allowed access to the inner chamber. Malak, sensing that this was a turning point for them, warned Revan that the Council may banish them for entering, but he continued on, and so Malak followed. Within the ruins, they found a star map, revealing part of the location to a space station called the Star Forge. Intrigued, Revan investigated further, discovering another star map on the planet of Kashyyyk, and even visiting the Sith homeworld of Korriban, seeking more information. Eventually, he discovered the Trace Academy, an ancient Sith academy within the planet of Malachor 5, all the while teaching his newfound knowledge to his friend Malak, slowly turning both to the dark side. Revan and Malak continued to fight for the Republic against the Mandalorians, freeing captives in the Taris Undercity and battling Casus Fett in Jagga's cluster. No longer concerned with Republic casualties, Revan ordered his forces under Jedi Knight General MEETRA SURIK to attack Onderon and Duxon, using a strategy that left 10 Republic soldiers killed for every Mandalorian. Yet Revan's ruthless cunning took a toll on his hated enemies, leading to a campaign on Althir III which destroyed a large part of the Mandalorian army. By 3960 BBY, Revan had commissioned the creation of a superweapon called the Mass Shadow Generator, built by the Zabrak engineer Bao Dur. Determined to end the Mandalorian threat once and for all, he laid a trap for them at Malachor 5, sending heavy Republic forces to lure them into a final confrontation. When Revan arrived at the battle, Mandalore the Ultimate challenged him to single combat, and so they dueled aboard the Mandalore ship where Revan struck him down. Yet as the Mandalore lay dying, he removed his mask, saying that he had been manipulated into starting the war by a red-skinned Sith and suggesting Revan travel to the planet Rekiad to confirm the story. After his death, Revan took the Mandalore's mask as a war prize and understood he must learn the truth behind the man's final words. As the battle raged on, General MEETRA SURIK obeyed orders and activated the Mass Shadow Generator, creating an enormous gravitational force, pulling nearly all surrounding ships directly onto Malachor's surface, destroying the planet and its population. Though it came at a heavy cost to the Republic, the Mandalorian NEO-CRUSADERS were crushed into defeat, with the last survivors quickly offering their unconditional surrender. Conveniently, many of the Jedi and Republic officers who died at Malachor 5 were noted critics of Revan's policies, and were now unable to continue their opposition. The Mandalorians were stripped of their weapons and armor, and with their people scattered and culture devastated, many turned to bounty hunting and mercenary work. After the war, Revan continued down his dark path, completing construction of an assassin droid designated HK-47, using it to stealthily eliminate opponents rather than confront them openly. And while the former Supreme Commander quickly moved on from the tragedy at Malachor 5, back on Coruscant, the Jedi Council was outraged, believing his actions monstrous and demanding that Revan, Malak, and MEETRA SURIK return to face punishment for their crimes. MEETRA, whose force powers were suppressed after the trauma of sensing so many lost lives on Malachor, was the only one of the three to obey the Council and return to face judgment, resulting in her exile from the Order. Revan and Malak, meanwhile, ignored the Council and traveled to Rekiad, investigating the deceased Mandalore's claims, finding the tomb of Sith Lord Dromoth II, and a datachron revealing the location of the planet Nathema, where they might continue their search for the truth. But before leaving Rekiad, Revan hid the mask of Mandalore within the tomb of the deceased Sith Lord. Continuing their investigation, they discovered Nathema was completely barren of the Force. Learning about a powerful Sith Lord who lived during the Great Hyperspace War of 5000 BBY, surviving the Jedi and Republic victory, and gathering remaining Sith Lords upon Nathema to conduct a powerful dark side ritual. But what Sith Lord Vitiate failed to mention was that the ritual would destroy all life on the planet, using their Force energy to make himself immortal. Vitiate then led the last of his followers to the forgotten world of Drummond Kaas and re-established the Sith Empire in this isolated region with himself as Emperor. Revan and MALAK soon came to realize that it was this long-forgotten Sith Emperor who was manipulating the galaxy from the shadows, using Mandalore the Ultimate to wage war against the Republic as a test of the ruling government's strength and as a prelude to invasion. They then decided to assassinate Vitiate themselves rather than warn the Republic of his plans, infiltrating the palace with the help of a guard named Yari, only to discover it was a trap, with the Emperor using his powers to enter their minds and turn them to his cause, initiating them into the Sith Order. They were henceforth known as Darth Revan and Darth MALAK, sent back to conquer the Republic in the name of the Emperor. To aid them in their mission, they were told to make use of the Star Forge, an automated shipyard providing them with an unending supply of ships, droids, and many other machines of war. As Revan prepared for his invasion of the Republic, he recorded a holocron, filling it with his personal thoughts on the dark side and the relationship between master and apprentice. This device was left on the planet of Lahan and was discovered thousands of years later by Darth Bane, proving crucial in his development of the Rule of Two philosophy, which fundamentally transformed the Sith Order. Once in possession of the Star Forge, Revan and MALAK broke free of the Emperor's control, proclaiming themselves leaders of a new Sith Empire, with Revan as master and MALAK as apprentice. They then re-established a Sith Academy upon Korriban, training a new generation of Sith Lords to serve under their command, with most remembering Revan and MALAK as Jedi heroes who defeated the Mandalorians, and with few seeing a difference between the Jedi and Sith Order. The approaching conflict came to be known as the Jedi Civil War, seeing the first battle fought at Forost in 3958 BBY, when the new Sith Empire attacked an important Republic shipyard, capturing a large portion of their fleet. Yet Revan's strategy called for more than direct military engagement, ordering the assassination of many prominent Republic figures in order to cripple their leadership while keeping the military and political structure of government intact, so he might easily assume power when victory was complete. Outraged by Revan's treachery, the Achani general Usanis challenged him to single combat, but was ultimately defeated and killed by the Dark Lord. Revan then continued with his grand plan, focusing heavily on capturing Jedi in order to torture and turn them to the dark side. In addition, he allied with the Zerka Corporation, offering them an exclusive contract with the Sith Empire. And while the invasion of the Republic was proceeding well, a rift began to develop between the more strategic Revan and his apprentice MALAK, who valued brute strength. Their disagreement over how to fight the war led MALAK to see his master's actions as a sign of weakness. This insult led to a duel between them, wherein Revan struck MALAK down, removing the man's jaw with a swing of his lightsaber. The Sith apprentice survived, but was forced to wear a prosthesis for the rest of his life. And while Revan had momentarily regained control, his dream of ruling a united Sith Empire soon came to an end when a Republic trap in the Outer Rim led to a Jedi invasion of his ship, soon becoming surrounded by his light side enemies. Revan, undeterred, was prepared to fight them all, but his apprentice MALAK, sensing the situation and eager to become the new Dark Lord of the Sith, betrayed his master, launching a devastating attack. As the ship came under fire, the Jedi Bastila Shan used the chaos of the moment to knock Revan unconscious, fleeing from the ship together and using her abilities to create a force bond between them. Revan was then taken to Dantooine, where the Jedi Council healed his wounds, but also performed a ritual to wipe his mind of all memories, giving him a new identity as a Republic soldier, so his skills might serve to defeat the Sith Empire he once ruled. As a Republic soldier, the man formerly known as Revan was assigned to the ship Endar Spire, placed under the command of Jedi Padawan Bastila Shan. But it was not long before the ship came under attack by the new Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth MALAK. As the ship was boarded, most made their way to escape pods, but Revan and his bunkmate Trask Ulgo stayed behind, searching for their commander to ensure her safety, only to discover she had already left the ship. They then encountered Darth Bandon, new Sith apprentice of Darth Lord MALAK, and Trask selflessly sacrificed himself, attacking Bandon and sealing the door behind him in the hopes of buying Revan time to escape. Revan was then contacted by Captain Carth Onasi, informing him that they were the last two on board, then escaping together, only to crash land on the nearby planet of Taurus. Taking refuge in the south apartments of the upper city, they embarked on a mission to find Bastila Shan and return to the service of the Republic. During their time on the planet, they befriended a Twi'lek woman named Mission Veo, helping her rescue Zalbar, her Wookiee companion, who was so grateful he swore a life debt, joining Revan in his travels, with Veo following close behind. They finally found Bastila Shan held in a cage unconscious by a criminal named Brejik, leader of the Black Vulkars, who held her as a prize to be awarded to the winner of a swoop bike race, which Revan entered and won. Yet the plan ultimately failed and was about to turn violent when Master Shan awoke and emerged from the cage, attacking her captors. Revan and Shan fought side by side and were victorious, reuniting with Carth Onasi to figure out a way off the planet. And so they made a deal with a Mandalorian named Canderous Ordo to steal the ship Ebon Hawk so they might escape. Revan then purchased a T-3M4 droid to help in his mission, and the group proved successful, taking the ship off planet and into hyperspace. Bastila then ordered that they travel to Dantooine, where Revan had a private meeting with the Jedi Council, who continued to hold back the secret of his origins, but could not deny his ever-increasing Force capabilities. They also told him the strange dreams and shared visions he'd been having had created a Force bond with Bastila Shan, who, though a Padawan herself, was tasked with observing his Jedi training to ensure he did not return to the dark side. After several weeks, the Padawans were sent to investigate nearby ruins, where a vision revealed Revan once visited with MALAK. Passing the required tests, they gained access to the inner chamber and found a part of a star map which mentioned several other planets where the rest of the map could be found. This was how Revan and MALAK discovered the Star Forge, which allowed them to build their Sith Empire. Returning to the Council, they were then assigned to locate the rest of the map fragments so they might find MALAK and destroy his empire. Before leaving Dantooine, they were joined by Jedi Knight Juhani, who joined their crew, eager to serve Revan after he selflessly helped her during his time on the planet. They then traveled to Tatooine, where Revan bought a droid designated HK-47 to join his crew as they recovered the next piece of the star map. Yet after its retrieval, they were confronted by the bounty hunter Calo Nord, who was hired by MALAK to find Revan and his people, with the Dark Lord now aware of Revan's survival. The Jedi Padawan and his crew then defeated the bounty hunter, leaving Tatooine and traveling to the Wookiee planet of Kashyyyk. There, Revan met a Grey Jedi named Jolee Bindo, who recognized the former Sith Lord, but did not reveal what he knew. Bindo then joined Revan's crew and helped him find the star map on the planet. Moving on to the planet of Manan, the Jedi Padawan came to participate in a murder trial, representing an old friend of Bindo named Sunri, attempting to help in his defense. After which they recovered the next star map fragment, only to be attacked by Darth Bandon and his minions. Revan engaged the Sith apprentice and struck him down, then leaving the planet, headed for Korriban to find the final piece of the star map. Yet as they made their way to the Sith homeworld, the Ebon Hawk was attacked and captured by the Imperial ship Leviathan, led by Saul Karath, Carth Onasi's former Republic commander, now serving the Sith Empire. And while Revan was tortured for information, he never broke and was eventually rescued along with the rest of the crew by one of his companions who had stayed behind and hid from Imperial forces, waiting for the right time to come to their aid. And so Revan, Shan, and Onasi confronted Karath on the bridge of his ship, killing the man and his guards. But as he lay dying, he whispered a secret to Carth Onasi, informing him of Revan's true identity. Though stunned, Onasi did not reveal what he learned, and so they continued their escape until intercepted by Darth Malak, who had just arrived, confronting his former Sith master, and at last revealing the truth behind Revan's identity. They then engaged in a duel, where Revan proved a stronger warrior, but Malak was able to use his Force powers to overcome Revan's superior fighting skills, and would have killed him if not for Bastila Shan, who took over the battle, sacrificing herself so he might escape. And while Revan desperately wanted to save her, he and Onasi barely managed to escape with their own lives, returning to the Ebon Hawk and informing them of all that occurred. To Revan's surprise, they all were able to accept the truth of his past, realizing he was not the same man anymore. Continuing on to Korriban, Revan and Bindo posed as Sith recruits in order to enter the academy and gain access to restricted areas. Revan then located the final star map fragment within the tomb of an ancient Dark Lord and had to fight his way back to the Ebon Hawk after it was discovered he was not a Sith. With the star map now complete, the Ebon Hawk followed it to the unknown regions, where they discovered the Star Forge, surrounded by the Sith fleet, sending the coordinates to the Republic. But the ship was soon spotted and forced to land on the nearby planet of Lahan, where Revan came to be confronted by Bastila Shan, his former Jedi Master, now the Sith apprentice of Darth Malak. Revan learned that she'd been defeated by Malak during their duel, then captured and tortured until she fell to the dark side. Bastila engaged Revan, but proved unable to defeat him, fleeing the confrontation. The former Dark Lord then returned to the Ebon Hawk and participated in a coordinated attack with Republic forces, boarding the Starforge directly, where Revan once again engaged Bastila Shan, defeating her 3 times until she begged him to end her suffering. Yet he refused to kill her, instead convincing her to return to the light side and expressing his feelings of love for her, which she returned. Revan then moved on to confront Darth Malak, at last defeating his former apprentice and striking him down. With the war all but over, Revan and his crew were invited to Lahan, where they were greeted as heroes. For his efforts, Revan received the Cross of Glory, known to be the highest possible honor within the Republic. After the destruction of the Star Forge and defeat of Darth Malak, the remnants of the Sith Empire turned against each other, allowing for the Republic to defeat and scatter the last of their forces. With the war over, Revan and Bastila Shan both turned down offers to return to their training within the Jedi Order, instead getting married and retiring from public life, taking T3M4 and HK-47 to live with them in an apartment on Coruscant. Revan felt that his knowledge of the Force and the relationship between the dark and light side gave him a unique perspective far beyond that of a Jedi Padawan. He also came to realize that emotions and relationships could prove a source of strength, like when his wife Bastila was pulled back from the dark side through their love for each other. And so Revan took this new understanding of the Force to the Jedi Council in the hopes of teaching them what he'd learned. But they outright rejected his ideas, with some even threatening to banish Revan from the Order entirely. In the end, they feared the public outcry over banishing a Republic hero, and so allowed Revan and Bastila to remain members of the Jedi Order on the condition that they keep their beliefs and marriage private, making no effort to spread their teachings. Revan did not want to fight with the Council, and so agreed to the terms. Although Revan was happy in his new life, he became haunted with nightmares of a planet covered by storms. Revan still had not recovered all the memories he had lost after the ritual performed by the Jedi Council, but he came to believe that these dreams were related to his past and the journey he'd taken with Malak into the uncharted areas of the galaxy after the Mandalorian Wars. He then contacted his old friend Canderous Ordo and met with him to discuss the dreams and find out any information he could about Mandalore the Ultimate and his reasons for invading the Republic. Revan believed that it might in some way be connected to the war waged by Revan and Malak when they returned to the known galaxy as Sith Lords. After their meeting, Revan wished to contact his old friend MEETRA SURIK, traveling to the Jedi archives in search of information. There, he was confronted by Jedi Master Atris, who informed him of MEETRA's fate, having cut herself off from the Force after the Battle of Malachor V, and her exile from the Order when she returned to face judgment. Revan was deeply saddened by what he learned, and left the temple, unsure if he'd ever see his old friend again. Less than a month later, Canderous contacted Revan and revealed that the Mandalorian clans were gathering upon the planet of Rekiad, searching for the mask of their fallen leader, Mandalore the Ultimate, so that a new ruler might take his place and unify their people. Revan, understanding the threat a united Mandalorian army might pose, made plans with Canderous to travel to Rekiad and join in the search. Revan hoped that Bastila would join them on the mission, but when he returned home, he discovered she was pregnant, and soon they were arguing about Revan wanting to leave them and go on a dangerous mission. In the end, he convinced Bastila that his visions were related to a larger threat looming, and it was his duty to investigate and stop it if he could, so that their child might live a long life of peace. After spending one last night with his wife, Revan, along with T3M4, joined Canderous and boarded the Ebon Hawk, journeying to Rekiad, where the Mandalorian reunited with his people in Clan Ordo. In order to hide his identity, Revan was introduced to them as a mercenary named Avner, who had come to help them find the mask. Revan then met a proud and ferocious woman named Vila Ordo, leader of the clan and wife of Canderous. After experiencing more dreams and memories of his past, Revan realized Clan Ordo was searching in the wrong area of the planet, and so Canderous convinced them to move, engaging in battle with another clan to claim the new area. Revan then led a group of them to find the tomb of the ancient Sith Lord, Dramath II, and there recovered the Mask of Mandalore. Unfortunately, Vila then turned against Revan, claiming she knew his true identity, and the Mandalorians attacked. Canderous was forced to choose between his wife and friend, ultimately shooting Vila through the chest. Canderous then stood silently near the bodies for a time, before he and Revan gave them a proper burial. Having also discovered a datachron in the tomb of the Sith Lord, Revan decided he must next travel to the planet Nathema to learn more about his past, and rather than ask Canderous to join him, he instead told the Mandalorian to claim the Mask of Mandalore for himself, so that he might unify the clans and prepare them to defend the Republic from whatever outside threat was approaching. In this way, they might regain the honor lost from their war of aggression. Canderous agreed and took up the mask, becoming Mandalore the Preserver, and the two went their separate ways, each determined to see their task completed. Revan and T3M4 then took the Ebon Hawk to Nathema, where he became overwhelmed by visions and flashbacks. Unfortunately, Darth Nihilus and Lord Scourge of the Dromund Kaas-based Sith Empire were already present in the area when he arrived, attacking the Ebon Hawk and forcing it to crash land on the planet. Recovering his injured body, Nihilus recognized Revan as one of the men captured by the Emperor years earlier, and came to suspect he'd been twisted to the Emperor's will, then sent back to the Republic on a mission. Nihilus was part of a Sith faction planning to overthrow their leader, and was therefore intrigued by the possibility Revan had somehow overcome the Emperor's influence, locking him away on Dromund Kaas to be interrogated and tortured by Scourge for information. However, the Dark Lord quickly realized Revan honestly did not remember much of his own past, and so Nihilus lost interest over time, but Scourge did not, fascinated by the human's power and experiences. As a result, the two often spoke, exchanging their insights into the Force. During his incarceration, Revan lied to Scourge, telling him he'd seen a vision of the future where he would be released from prison. And though Scourge was skeptical, he knew Revan had unique and impressive powers, and so did not discount the possibility. Revan was kept drugged at all times to suppress his use of the Force, but slowly he began to develop an immunity, summoning small amounts of Force energy to attempt contacting his wife. But instead, he was granted a vision of his old friend MEETRA SURIK, realizing she would be the one coming to his rescue. For 3 years, Revan was imprisoned on Dromund Kaas, during which time his loyal droid T3M4 managed to repair the Ebon Hawk and fly it off Nathema and into galactic space, where it was found by MEETRA SURIK. The former Jedi, undergoing her own journey of redemption and self-acceptance, had been slowly learning to use the Force again, while working with a number of allies and friends of Revan to defeat a new threat facing the galaxy. The last remnants of the Sith Empire under Revan and MALAK had been united under Darth Traya, Darth Sion, and Darth Nihilus, but were ultimately defeated by MEETRA and her allies. She then left Republic space, determined to find Revan and help him in any way possible. Accompanied by T3M4, the droid had shown a video to SURIK, showing her the red-skinned Sith who'd taken Revan from Nathema, and so she followed his trail to Dromund Kaas and made inquiries, alerting Scourge, who met her with a party of armed soldiers. When he learned she was a Jedi, he came to realize that Revan's vision of rescue was coming true, and so merely watched as MEETRA killed the soldiers, then offering to ally together. MEETRA was skeptical, but eventually agreed, and so Scourge went to the Emperor, revealing that Nihilus was part of a plot against him, along with other members of the Dark Council. This led the Emperor to send his forces to raid the fortress where Revan was being held, distracting the guard and allowing for MEETRA and Scourge to make their way to the prison cell. There they found Revan and 2 soldiers of Nihilus, who'd been convinced by the former Sith Lord to switch sides. Scourge gave Revan the antidote to remove the effects of the mind-numbing drugs suppressing his powers, while MEETRA, overjoyed at seeing her old mentor once more, presented his mask. But when Revan took it, all of the memories so long suppressed from his mind came rushing back, incapacitating him and causing him to collapse on the ground. Unfortunately, Nihilus then arrived, murdering the 2 soldiers and using her powerful dark side abilities to defeat Scourge and MEETRA. But just as she prepared to finish them off, taunting them with her power, Revan rose from the ground, wearing his mask, and declared, "I am Revan reborn, and before me, you are nothing." Nyrus then launched a massive burst of purple lightning towards them, which Revan absorbed and reversed, consuming her in a lightning storm until all that remained was a pile of ash. Retreating back to a safe location, SCOURGE, MEETRA, Revan, and T3-M4 planned to continue their attempts to assassinate the Emperor, and so decided to pose as associates of SCOURGE, who would use his position to bully the guards into allowing him an audience with the Emperor. Once the doors were open, they would attack. However, when they put their plan into motion, Revan was recognized by the guard Yari, who'd been part of the plot to capture him 3 years earlier, and so MEETRA and SCOURGE were forced to stay behind, battling the guards outside the main chamber, while Revan ran in, determined to kill the Emperor. The former Jedi and Sith Lord made a valiant effort, able to use his knowledge of the light and dark side to pose a serious threat, even surprising the Emperor with his abilities. But the Sith, once known as Vitiate, was more powerful than anyone Revan had ever faced, and overcame him with an enormous darkside lightning attack that might have killed him, if not for T3-M4, who charged against the Emperor, attacking him with a flamethrower. And while he succeeded in distracting the enemy and saving his master, Vitiate immediately destroyed the droid. SCOURGE and MEETRA, having finished with the others, then rushed to Revan's side, and the three prepared to charge against the Emperor. But then suddenly, SCOURGE was struck by a Force vision, and all became clear. Revan was not the one who would destroy the Emperor. That task was to be completed by another, and SCOURGE must be alive to help in that future effort. And so as MEETRA and Revan stepped forward, SCOURGE stepped to the side, stabbing MEETRA through the heart, killing her instantly. Revan, distracted and distraught by her death, was then left vulnerable to the Emperor, who crippled him with an attack. After the battle, Revan's defeated but still living body was taken to a specially constructed prison within Maelstrom Station, kept alive by machinery and Sith alchemy. SCOURGE, meanwhile, claimed he was only pretending to be with the Jedi, using that position to lure them to the Emperor, who he believed was the only one powerful enough to defeat Revan. Vitiate was satisfied with this response, and rewarded SCOURGE by making him the Emperor's Wrath, in charge of executing the enemies of the Emperor. He was also granted immortality through a dark side ritual, which gave him eternal life at a cost of keeping his body in constant and unending pain. However, SCOURGE would eventually grow numb to the agony, as well as emotions, becoming singularly focused to act as a weapon of the Emperor. For 300 years, Revan was held as a prisoner, tortured savagely, and used as a source of Force energy for the Emperor, even linking their minds to learn all he could about the Republic and their defenses. During the years of torment, Revan was given comfort and support by the Force ghost of MEETRA SURIK, who had stayed with Revan after her death. With her help and through the power of his will, Revan was able to utilize the mental connection he shared, allowing him to influence the Emperor in small ways, but enough to prevent him from launching a war against the Republic for centuries. In this way, Revan could ensure his wife and son lived out their lives in peace. During the 300 years of Revan's imprisonment, his legend remained strong throughout the galaxy, with a secret society dedicated to using his teachings to change the Empire, forming Andromeda Cos. The Emperor, meanwhile, discovered a dark side ritual known as essence transfer, and abandoned his physical form in favor of moving his consciousness through various host bodies, corrupting them with his dark side powers and then discarding one for another. The body which he chose to inhabit became known as the Emperor's voice. Yet even with all his power, Vitiate was unsatisfied with life as a Sith Emperor, seeing past the dogma and doctrine to understand the Force was more than what the Sith or even Jedi believed. He then heard about a force known as the Eternal Fleet, an armada of automated ships which wreaked havoc in wild space. Leaving a part of himself behind to control the Emperor's voice, his consciousness went in search of the Eternal Fleet, eventually traveling into the unknown regions and finding the planet of Zakuul. Here, the Emperor took over the body of a warrior named Valkorion and used him to create a new empire built without the constraints of Jedi and Sith philosophies. An eternal empire ruled by an immortal emperor who trained the Knights of Zakuul, a new class of Force-wielding warriors armed with lightsaber pikes and trained to see the Force as a tool for justice and nothing more, used only to enforce the law. The being once known as Vitiate ruled both the Sith Empire under the Emperor's voice and the Eternal Empire under Valkorion, at the same time splitting his attention between them. For 3 centuries, the galaxy was afforded peace through Revan's suffering, but the Emperor eventually went through with his original plans, invading the Republic in 3681 BBY, initiating the Great Galactic War. To his disappointment, the Sith Empire was unable to achieve a quick victory, and so the war dragged on for 28 years, until Revan's influence at last convinced the Emperor to end hostilities. And so in 3653 BBY, Sith representatives met with Republic officials on Alderaan to discuss terms of peace, while Imperial forces simultaneously invaded and sacked Coruscant, allowing for the delegation on Alderaan to demand the surrender of the Republic. They then signed the Treaty of Coruscant, declaring the Empire victorious. Though the war was over, with the Republic forced to make several territorial concessions, the galaxy was still divided between the two powers, leading to years of Cold War. Always seeking greater power and terrified of death, the Emperor began to have notions of a new dark side ritual, which would wipe out all life in the galaxy, leaving him to rule in the void, unchallenged and immortal. Although Revan suffered greatly, he believed his imprisonment was essential to keeping the Emperor subdued. But the Force ghost of MEETRA SURIK knew her mentor and friend was withering away, and could not control the Emperor forever. And so she left him for a time to visit Jedi Master Oteg of the Republic, convincing him to organize a strike team, rescuing Revan from his prison. MEETRA, having done her duty, gave Revan some final words of advice and encouragement before finding peace and becoming one with the Force. The former Sith Lord then proceeded to inform the Jedi High Council of all he knew concerning the Imperial threat before setting out to find his old droid HK-47. He was also able to recover his mask from the Order of Revan on Dromund Kaas, but chose not to associate with them because their reverence was unnerving. And so he made his way to the Foundry, an ancient Rakatan manufacturing facility whose location he'd known for many years but was able to shield from the Emperor during his imprisonment. Revan, determined to end the Sith threat once and for all, then began building an army of extermination droids designed to wipe out everyone of Sith ancestry throughout the galaxy. But the Emperor learned of his plans and sent a team of elite warriors, which made their way through the facility, destroying HK-47 before confronting Revan and slaying him in a final battle. Revan's long and complicated life saw him embrace both the light and dark sides of the Force. And so when at last he died, his spirit split in two, with his light side half desiring to become one with the Force, while his dark side half clung to the physical world, remaining attached to his body. Fueled by his hatred for the Emperor and desire for vengeance, Dark Side Revan then decided to embrace the Revanites on Dromund Kaas, taking direct control of the Order and turning them into an extremist and fanatical cult. Under his leadership, they managed to infiltrate both the Empire and Republic, placing many of their agents in positions of power. Ordering the creation of an infinite army, the Revanites began implanting Rakatan technology into organic bodies, creating powerful cyborg warriors. However, the project was destroyed in its early stages by both Republic and Imperial forces. Learning that the Emperor's consciousness was in hiding on Yavin 4, Darkside Revan set out to finally destroy his hated enemy, conducting a ritual to restore the Emperor's physical body, making him vulnerable to attack. But again, a joint Republic and Imperial coalition arrived to upset his plans, engaging the Revanite forces in the area. Unfortunately, only the Emperor benefited from the massive loss of life that followed, using their deaths to regain his strength, allowing his consciousness to leave the planet and continue his campaign to rule the galaxy. In the end, Darkside Revan was defeated by the Coalition, which included two of his descendants in Jedi Master Satele Shan and her son Theron Shan. He was then confronted by his light side half, which convinced him to accept death and become one with the Force. The two halves merged and Revan's body disappeared, leaving only his mask and lightsaber. After his death, the former Jedi and Sith Lord's legacy continued on, influencing both light and dark side users for thousands of years. His own descendants became powerful figures in the Republic and Jedi Order, while his holocron and personal writings went on to shape the future of the Sith Order, with Darth Bane, founder of the Rule of Two philosophy, basing much of his work on Revan's teachings. The Cross of Glory earned for saving the Republic was placed in a Republic Foundation museum, while his mask became a trophy for future Sith Lords. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Tony of House Jake, Master Hades of Skagos, and Oren Bao the Ice Eye. If you would like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.